Hey YouTube, and welcome to Rocket League Storytime. Today's Rocket League Storytime is going to be about Team Queso, the second best team in the world, potentially best team in the world, but they finished second at the major, and they've had an insane offseason. If you haven't been watching it, we're going to go all over it from beginning to end, and I'll let you know the entire scoop. It's going to have lots of twists and turns, as you'll see, so stick with me. Let's start. First off, it all begins at the major. The major that happened in the winter, which Team Queso finished second. You see they were the runners-up, and they had a great run through the lower bracket. They ended up losing early in pools to version 1, but then bouncing back, taking down NRG, EG, Furia, FaZe, Space Station, G2 once, but not G2 twice, where they ultimately fell short and finished second because they couldn't get the bracket reset and the major win. Now, they still are potentially one of the best teams in the world. In fact, this lower bracket run, some people said, was the most impressive run. Johnny boy. But not that many people agree with them. Teammates, who thought that was insane, did want to find out what people thought whether Cloud9's Season 6 Worlds run, where they went through the lower bracket and ended up winning, was better than Queso's at the LA Major. And I'll be honest, when I saw this poll, I thought for sure it was going to be 90-10, if not even more for Cloud9. But people did like to point out that Queso's run was impressive, and maybe they did it in an era that was much harder to win in than the era that Cloud9 did it for Season 6. And they had something going to it, because in fact, even I felt like they were the best team. I referred to Team Queso, Rise, Joyo, and Vatira as the best team. People started giving me flack about it, so I put a poll up. I just asked Twitter, who's the best team? That's all I said. Tried not to be too specific as possible. And as you can see, even though G2 was coming off of a major win, people voted for Rise, Joyo, Vatira, aka Team Queso. Now, you might notice I didn't write Team Queso down. We'll get to why that is in a second. But first, more roster information came out about Team Queso over the break, and the first of which was Team Queso Nick, the coach of Team Queso, saying he's LFT, which suggests that he is not going to be a part of Team Queso anymore. And it turns out that the reason why is because certain orgs didn't want to pay if Team Queso got bought out. It seemed like people didn't want to pay for Nick to stay on the roster, so he was dropped. Now, we've also heard some other things about maybe reasons why he could have been dropped. We won't get into those too much. I do think he's getting picked up by another team based on what I've seen on Twitter, so he'll likely still be in the Rocket League scene. But losing their coach wasn't the only roster change that was going to happen. Eventually, Shift, a Twitter account that follows the main of Rocket League news, it's the place to go to for anything, and they leaked, or they announced, that according to sources, Team BDS, the best team in EU, or at least historically the best team in the EU, and they didn't have as good a finish as Queso did, are in talks to replace Mark by 8 with French superstar Vatira. Now, this has been kind of expected because Team BDS had 2 French players and a Spanish player, and there has been rumblings of the fact that the French players wanted to play with a full French team. This has been the case for all of Rocket League, meaning back to history. French players like to play on full French rosters, and it's not the first time that a good player has been kicked for the sake of getting a completely French roster. Now, Vatira is one of the better French players in the game right now. He's the only French player on his team on Team Queso. His 2 Team Queso team members are both English. And it looked like BDS wanted to get back to their superstardom. They still have the number 1 points in EU, so they are the number 1 team. It's interesting to maybe be kicking out a player, but Vatira is a guy they're potentially going to do it for. And some people weren't sure whether or not they're going to pick up Vatira or maybe Seiko, who is another top player from Endpoint, who also has, I believe, 2 English teammates, without thinking about it too hard, because that's not the focus of this story. So, were they going to pick up Vatira? Were they going to pick up Seiko? It's hard to know until Vatira started to make it easy on us. He tweeted saying, "Good luck next to Joyo," who is his former teammate on Queso. He said, LFT for RLCS is the tweet that Joyo made a couple years ago when he was looking for a team. Basically, Vatira bringing it back up, saying, see you later. Hopefully you have a good next season, because I am leaving you. I am headed to BDS. And I'll be honest, we thought they were just in talks, but I'll admit, I thought it was for sure. I know they just said they were in talks, but this is one of my tweets. As I screenshotted the fact that he retweeted this tweet and said, good luck for next, I figured it might actually happen. Until Vatira, about a few days later, April 8th, this was April 12th, 4 days later, he tweets this.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving!
My favorite tweet to announce anything that is staying the same like this. Turns out Vatira is not leaving. He was baiting us. He was playing into it by tweeting into his old teammates, LFTs, and even Rise was responding to them like, oh, come on, man, that's too soon, to some of those retweets. But it turns out it was all bait. It was all bait. Vatira either always planned on staying on Queso or had a good feeling he'd be staying on Queso and was just trying to mess with the rest of the world until it was discovered, or sorry, he was sticking with the roster. But there's more news with Team Queso, and that is they're being dropped. They are being dropped by Team Queso GG. You can see here their announcement saying goodbye to the roster, and Rise talking about how he loved his time on Queso, and he is very thankful for that opportunity. But here's the thing. We just talked about how Rise, Vatira, and Joyo make up maybe the best roster in Rocket League. We just mentioned at least their second best, and now they don't have an org. Now, there are not very many teams as talented as them without an org, so there has to be an org coming soon. And it's probably a big org, because think about it. Best team has to be big org. And then Rise reveals he joined Cloud9. Not only did he tweet this, Joyo tweeted this, and I think Vatira tweeted it as well. Cloud9's back in Rocket League. It's something that we've been wanting for the longest time. We've been waiting for Cloud9, and it's finally happening. It's amazing. In fact, Cloud9 even tweeted out that wait a second. Cloud9 tweeted out? No, it looks like Jack tweeted it out. He's saying we are back with Rise, Joyo, and Vatira. Now, when he tweeted this originally, he changed his display name as well to say Cloud9, and it had the official checkmark. So it was a true total debate. It flew off. This tricked a ton of people. Turns out Cloud9 hadn't announced anything. Maybe Cloud9 was still going to sign them, maybe not. But at the very least, this was a bait, which is happening a lot in the Rocket League scene. Cloud9 can say one word, and the rest of the scene freaks out saying, I think they're coming back. And so this is them playing into it. Turns out Cloud9 had not announced whether or not they're coming back. And lots of people were speculating, where are they going to go? Are they going to go to Cloud9? Are they going to go to Moist Esports? Are they going to 100 Thieves? Or maybe something else? T-Bates, who I've been following on these Twitter accounts, he throws up a poll to see what do people think. Well, it turns out people still think they're going to go to Cloud9. You know, maybe they're playing into the bit, or maybe they actually think it. Could also be Moist, could also be 100 Thieves. And then, finally, they actually gave us an announcement. Cloud9 said they're back in Rocket League. They're picking up Joyo, Vatira, and Rise, and they even made a video for it. So let's check out the video.
Against all odds, going up against all of the giants of Rocket League, one by one, they knock them down.
Wait, Muffin Men? Wait, gimmick? Wait a second. Turns out this is another bait. This is not an actual announcement. You better believe this got a ton more people. If you look at this, it's not Cloud9. It's not an actual check mark. It's Clued9. Turns out yet another bait gets another 5,000 people, at least a ton of quote tweets, a bunch of attention. Still not officially Cloud9. And yet, people were still wondering, could it be Cloud9 still? The answer is no. The answer is no, because today it is finally announced Moist Esports. And if you guys don't know who Moist is, I'm just going to let you watch this announcement video first, and we'll talk about it.
Humans have always asked, where do we come from? But the question we should be asking is, where will we go? Will we colonize Mars? Will we explore beyond our solar system? Moist Esports has a bigger dream. Winning a Rocket League World Championship.
Side of flip reset on the side of the run, flips it. Beautifully up for the double. Joyo.
Be one heck of an equalizer as this is dropped in by Rise.
Denying the big clear from AJ. Here comes Vatira. He'll put it through.
He has boost. Joyo on the slow. Right to the down. Right on the goal.
This
boys. Sweet.
Oh, that's
High altitude. Bar down.
Look at this team play from everybody on Team Queso. The demo, the pass from Vatira.
Moist is back. They're actually back. We're pretty sure this is not a bait. Moist Esports. Now, if you haven't heard of Moist Esports, it's a Moist Critical. Moist Critical, a YouTuber and streamer who is a very, very popular personality, has created a esports organization of his own. He's picked up a lot of fighting game players, as well as Rizzo. He picked up Rizzo, a retired Rocket League pro, but I don't think he has very many teams yet. He's been giving offers out to teams like Sandrock Gaming and True Neutral, who became Complexity, and some other teams who are looking for orgs. He has been trying to get them, but lots of people only wanted an org with an established, long-standing history, as opposed to what people are referring to as a meme org that started not long ago. And you might be thinking, what do you mean meme org? I'm going to show you the first couple minutes of Moist Critical's announcement that his team had picked up Rise, Joyo, Vatira, and you'll maybe get an understanding of why.
I'm sure you can tell just by looking at me, but I am giddy with excitement. I feel like a little kid on Christmas Eve who just wandered downstairs and caught Santa Claus leaving Robux under the tree. I feel like I'm 8 years old again and I just watched Spider-Man for the first time, because I have incredible news to share with all of you that will no doubt change your lives. If you were a virgin before watching this video, you won't be after it. Or at least you won't be for long. Moist fucking Esports, a name that commands respect and elicits fear. Moist Esports is an org that we started back in August, so we haven't been around very long. We're just a little baby crawling around looking for a titty to suckle some milk out of. But in the short 8 or 9 months that we've...
So I'm going to stop it there. This is the 8-minute video that you go watch on Moist Critical's channel if you want to. But you get an idea. You get an idea of the kind of creator that Moist Critical is. Obviously not more like the official super professional orgs. But the question is it a good thing or a bad thing? Some people would say it's a bad thing to have Moist Critical owning a team that is as good as the Team Queso roster from before. Or maybe it's just a good thing, because if you look at this video, you guys can't see because it's slightly off screen, but it has 700,000 views. 700,000 views. It's number 16 on trending for gaming, and it's just Moist Critical talking about his roster. So lots of attention. Just to give you an example of the kind of conversations that are happening, this Rocket S Jeremiah says, in his honest opinion, he'd rather have a tier 1 established and recognizable esports org with a big following. It'd feel more legitimate and brand friendly. But at the same time, I love Charlie and his content, and I'm sure he would get a lot of fire content from this team. Now, I'll be honest, when I heard this announcement, I was not on the train of wishing it was a tier 1 established recognizable esports org. I didn't think we needed that at all. I think at some point, you got to realize that we're in the gaming space and in the entertainment space, and a guy like Moist Critical and Moist Esports is great. I think he's going to make tons of content out of the team and out of the esport and bring way more attention to the game in general, and also support the players. I think he's been giving good offers. People have been saying that he's been giving the best offers out of any of the organizations that are reaching out. So it's not like he's paying them meme money. He's paying them the real deal and has an actual team. I think it's going to be great. I think with time, he's just going to become more and more legitimate, and I'm excited for it. Direct, the guy who does stats for RLCS, he talks about how he wasn't thinking about it, or what he was thinking about it, but you can see he also mentions the views and the likes on his tweet. And Garrett G says, this org is going to care so much more than any other tier 1 org would have. I'm so happy they went with Moist. And I think that's right. I think I agree with Garrett. I think I agree with the rest of the sentiments that this is a good thing. Turns out Team Queso, they didn't end up changing their roster. They did end up changing their org, but not to Cloud9. They ended up with Moist Critical and Moist Esports. And tomorrow, they start their new journey as Moist. Will they continue to be as dominant as they were last split, finishing first, and then second in the major? Or is it just a hot streak? Have they cooled off? It's hard to know. BDS tried to reload. Other teams in EU tried to reload to take teams like this down. I'm still a Moist fan. I think they could do it. What do you guys think?